Welcome back to Tabletop Tactics and a whole brand new day of the Grotmas Advent Calendar, and it is another double special today. We have the elves. We have both the Aeldari and the Drukhari being featured, so make sure you stick around to later on in the video to see what the Drukhari are up to. But for now, let's see about the Aeldari. The detachment rule is skilled crews, and what this grants you is your Aeldari vehicles now have assault on all of their ranged weapons, and your Aeldari vehicle fly units can reroll all their advanced rolls. It's very good for being able to move those big old boats exactly where you need them on the battlefield and to be able to get out of danger and into range whenever you want. As we know, some of the Aeldari's best tricks are with their movement shenanigans, so it's very cool that there is an entire detachment now surrounding this for the vehicles specifically, and I'm very excited to see how it runs. Looking further into the detachment, let's talk about the enhancements. The first one we have here is Guiding Presence, which is for an Aeldari Psyker model only. At the start of the shooting phase, you can pick one friendly Aeldari vehicle within 9 inches of the bearer, and that vehicle gets +1 to the hit roll. It's just a nice little buff to be able to give some reliability to your vehicles, potentially something that might be stuck in combat and you don't want to take the penalty for shooting. Next is Harmonization Matrix, which can be put on any of the Aeldari characters. In your command phase, if that character or any transport it's embarked upon is within range of an objective marker, roll a dice, and on a 3-up, you gain a command point. Now, there are some very cool strats in this detachment, so that's just very helpful at being able to unlock those for you. We then have Spirit Stone of Ryleth. This is once again for an Aeldari Psyker model, and this creates a nice little support character for your vehicles. So that character gains the lone operative keyword if it's within 3 inches of one or more friendly Aeldari vehicles, but it can also, in the command phase, pick one friendly vehicle within 3 inches and heal D3 lost wounds from it. So again, just giving you a way to keep your vehicles going. Finally, we have Guileful Strategist, which is one of those redeploy strats. If the bearer is part of your army after both armies have deployed, you can pick up to 3 vehicle units and redeploy them. You can even put them into strategic reserves, no matter how much you already have in strategic reserves. So it's very nice to be able to play that sneaky little tricksy Eldar game. That is it for the enhancements. I think they're all just nice little bonuses and tweaks. They're not crazy powerful, but they're all going to help this detachment keep going. So we'll move on to the stratagems, and the first is Layered Wards. So this can be done in any phase just after a mortal wound was allocated to an Aeldari vehicle, and for the rest of the phase, that vehicle gains a 5-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds. Situationally helpful because mortal wounds aren't as prevalent as they were because of the devastating wound change, but still very good at keeping those vehicles alive. Next is Swift Deployment, and this is done in your movement phase. You pick one transport from your army that is advanced. The units inside are eligible to disembark that phase. They cannot charge, but they can do everything else normally. It's good at getting your ranged units where you want them to be and opening up more targets for them throughout the game, and can also be helpful playing the secondary game just by getting more movement. We then have another one for the movement phase. This is Vectored Engines, and you pick one Aeldari vehicle with fly that has just fallen back. That unit is still eligible to shoot until the end of the turn. It's just nice to try and stop your vehicles being tagged in combat and having to suffer a penalty to their shooting. So it's really buffing up the vehicles and being able to make them more useful in the list. Continuing with the theme, we have a third stratagem that can be done in your movement phase, specifically this time in the reinforcement step of your movement phase. This is Cloud Strike. For this, you pick one vehicle with fly that is in strategic reserves, and they gain the Deep Strike ability. So not only can they appear anywhere they want on the board, but they can appear 6 inches away rather than the usual 9. They aren't eligible to charge, but they can still shoot, so it's very good for range. Any units that also disembark from that transport have to be 6 inches away from enemies, as you would expect, but again, you're just being able to put things wherever you want them on the board. It's very powerful mechanic. For the shooting phase, we have a straight up buffing strat, and that is Soul Sight. So you pick one vehicle from your army and they can reroll a hit, wound, and damage roll. Very powerful on some of those variable weapons, and grants you back some of the rerolls that you lose from not taking the index detachment. And finally, we have Anti-Grav Repulsion. So this is done just after an enemy unit declares a charge against an Aeldari vehicle with fly. You -2 to the charge rolls for that unit. So again, it's one of those strats that's just very helpful at trying to prevent your vehicles getting trapped in combat, so that you're still at maximum efficiency throughout the game. That is it. That is the Armored War Host detachment. So as I said at the beginning and throughout this video, a very vehicle-centered detachment, but you've got enough in there to buff your vehicles and protect them that I think this could be actually quite powerful depending on what you take and how you use it. I'm really excited to see how it runs, and I'm really excited to see what happens when the new Aeldari Codex comes out, as we know that they might be getting some tweaks to the army rule. But until then, I think this is still a very powerful detachment because we know movement shenanigans are just very good. It gives you the ability to score secondaries more reliable and primary, because those hefty vehicles sitting on objectives, they're going to be quite tough to shift, and it affords you the ability to get in range and out of range whenever you need to. So I think this has definitely got some play to it, and I'm really excited to play it myself if I get the chance, but we'll see. There is definitely a game coming up on demand with this detachment, so keep your eyes out for that and join us over on demand to make sure you don't miss out. And for now, let's see what the Tricksy Drukhari are getting up to.
You're now on to the cool section. Actually, that's not true. I like the Aeldari and the Drukhari, and apparently so does Games Workshop, because they've combined the two. It's another one of those kinds of detachment for the Dark Kin. Look, you can take half of your army as Harlequins, and your detachment rule is based off of that. Who knows when the Codex will come out or what that might bring, so you'll probably get all your Cults and Covenant type stuff in there. But for now, this is what you got to work with. The detachment itself, the Reaper's Wager. You have the Callous Competition. So Drukhari units start by winning the wager. Harlequin units are losing the wager. Whilst a unit is losing the wager, it rerolls ones to hit and wound, which is a really powerful ability to have in an addition of less rerolls. Sure. Whenever a unit kills a unit, the opposite unit loses the wager. For example, Drukhari start by winning the wager. Harlequins are losing. If a Drukhari unit kills a unit, the Harlequins are still losing. If the Harlequins unit kills a unit, they're winning, and thus the Drukhari are losing, and thus they get the rerolls. So you can go for lots of death by 1,000 cut type attacks if your Drukhari are losing the wager. So all your Drukhari units are rerolling hits of 1 and wounds of 1, and then you don't quite finish things off. And then just before the combat, where you want your Harlequin units to get the reroll ones if they're on their way in, then that's when you shoot and finish stuff off. Yeah, look, it's really cool in theory. It's just practically very difficult to juggle. I don't know how I feel about it. I like it a bit, and it'll be fun to try out, but that's a lot of noggin work that you're going to have to do in terms of weighing up when to attack and where to attack, which is fine. That's what you should be doing if you're playing 40k. But if you just want to like roll some dice and have some fun, it's a lot of work to do. After the detachment rule, of course, we do have to talk about enhancements, and there are some really good ones in here. So the first is Arch Raider. So you can do this on any of your Drukhari or Harlequin units, which is always nice to have the option, and provided that they start the game inside a dedicated transport, they get the Scout 9 ability, which is really good, because if you want to move up with, say, I don't know, an Archon in a unit of 10 Incubi, you Scout move 9, and then you jump out 3, and then you can do the move and the charge. We then have Webway Walker. Now this one is, I like this one. It gives you Deep Strike. That doesn't sound all that great. Yes, turn 1 Deep Strike, baby. Yes. Big unit of 12 troops coming in. Hello there. I would like to murderize you turn 1, please. And in addition, if your unit's losing the wager, they can re-roll the charge. Remember, Harlequins are losing the wager turn 1. I'll let you do with that information what you will. Then we have Reaper's Cowl. Not cow, cowl, like hood, like that. This is a cowl, well, this is a hood, but a cowl, because I can't speak good. This is Harlequins only, and it may as well have been called the Shroud of Mimes, because it gives you stealth, and more importantly, infiltrate. It doesn't allow you to use twin pistols, because that would have been too awesome, And we know we're not going to get those in the Codex, which is very sad, but alas, I can but dream. So you can effectively make a unit of mimes, which will infiltrate and have the stealth. Amazing on a troop master in a big brick of 12, if you've got them hidden. Makes for a really nice double whammy for that Archon Incubi Arc Raider attack scout move. If you get the turn 1, your opponent is in a lot of danger. The final enhancement is Conductor of Torment. The way this works is it's about manipulating pain tokens and your wager. Effectively, if your Drukhari units are losing the wager, you can give yourself a pain token and then count as winning the wager. Or you can do the opposite. So if you're winning the wager, you can bin off a pain token to count as losing the wager. That second bit isn't quite as good because you're going, I would like to give up 3 rerolls on one unit to give my entire army reroll ones to hit and wound until they kill something, because then it'll immediately flip back to the Harlequins losing. So there is play to it, but you've got to be so careful. Again, it goes into this really difficult balancing act, like on a tightrope, because clowns is a Harlequin joke, in order to get the most of this. The thing that I'm going to see people using that more for is if you're losing, just win, get a pain token to give something powerful full rerolls for the shooting phase that's coming up, kill something, and then go back to losing anyway and get the reroll ones in wounds for everything else. So that just feels like that's going to happen more. But you know, it's good. It's just got a lot of. It's more thought processing onto the noggin, which is already trying to melt in your target priority for this detachment. And then, of course, we have stratagems, your 6 stratagems that you would expect, and they're all pretty good, actually. So we'll start off with Malicious Frenzy. So this is any Drukhari or Harlequin unit, including vehicles, Talos, Scourge, whatever you like. And you get to choose either lethal or sustained in your shooting or your fight phase. Having those on tap for anything is really, really powerful. There's no interaction with this model must be doing this or you must be losing the wager. It's just a great utility stratagem. The next stratagem does work off of the wager in a sense. So it's any Drukhari or Harlequin unit, once again, including Talos, you get to fight on death. On a 4+ if you haven't already fought, but if you're losing the wager, you get a +1 to that roll. Yeah, that's really good. Now, admittedly, Drukhari and Harlequins are both armies that should, 1, be getting the charge, and 2, shouldn't be getting charged, or be stuck in protracted combat. However, if you have a whiff, and then your opponent has a whiff, useful. If your opponent interrupts, useful. If you get caught flat-footed, useful. It's only a CP, so it's a good one to have. Then we have Murderer's Circus. Again, any Drukhari or Harlequin unit, and it's -1 to hit in the fight phase. Only in the fight phase, which is a bit of a shame. You can't get it on your boats. Yes, Venoms already have stealth, but nothing else does. After that, we have shorten the odds, because you shorten the odds of getting in range or making a charge. It gives you advance, shoot and charge. Really powerful if you've got that infiltrating brick that moves up normally, and then you've got the unit which scouts out of their radar, makes a move, advances. That's some serious pressure that you can put on with turn 1, and always useful to have the ability to reposition as well, or to get into range, to get into line of sight, or to just make a sneaky charge. Effectively getting an extra d6 on your charge roll is really nice. It's also worth noting again on any unit. So that's some seriously fast Talos if you want to be so inclined. Then we have Scintillating Tempo. So you do this in your movement phase or your charge phase. The minute that you select move, advance, charge, fall back, set up, whatever it is that you do in that phase, and your opponent cannot select them as the target for Overwatch. Now, the timing on this is a bit awkward because one could argue as it's your turn, you could dictate the order of operations by saying, I select this unit. Do you select them for Overwatch? Yes, I do. Haha, gotcha. I've done a stratagem which means you can't target them. Oh, you've wasted your CP. No TO worth their salt would do that. No player worth their salt would do that. So don't do that. Very powerful to have in either phase. You can double dip. If you've got 2 CP, you could move up and then do it again. Because remember that if you do it in the movement phase, your opponent won't use Overwatch, so they can save that for the charge phase. So you've got to be careful with its use, but it's very good to have as utility. And the final stratagem is the Dance Macabre, spelt with a C, not with an S, because that's the Dance Macabre, and this is the Dance Macabre. This is a really good one. Now, this is the only one that is infantry only, but it is Drukhari or Harlequin infantry only, and it is your standard move when someone moves near you. So whenever an enemy unit finishes a normal advance or fallback move within 9 inches of you, you get to move D6 or 6 if you are losing the wager, and it's 2 CP. So that's it. That is the Reaper's Wager. What do I think of it? Well, I won't harp on too much about my complete and utter dislike, disdain, and distaste for being forced to eventually buy another codex so that you can use half your army in an army that is in a different detachment because you've had to buy other stuff to go into that detachment. Because I've talked about it before. This is one of those detachments which is really fun on paper. I think it's got a lot of power and toolkit in its enhancements and stratagems. There's some real good ones in there, like really good ones in there. The problem is you're not going to rush out and buy 1,000 points of Harlequins to give some of your army reroll ones to wound and then spend time juggling it. You're not going to go out as a Harlequin player and go out to buy a bunch of Drukhari models. If you're one of those people that happens to have a bunch of Drukhari and Harlequins models because you started playing them in 9th edition for some strange reason, no one knows why, then give it a go, because again, I think there's some real teeth in this. I'm actually really looking forward to using it, despite my dislike of these half and half detachments as a concept, and as a user, it leaves that horrible sour taste. But if you've got the models and you can use it, I do think that this is worth giving a go. And that's kind of all you can really hope for from a detachment like this, especially a freebie. So, you know, I won't kick a gift horse in the mouth or whatever the saying is, but I probably would because Drukhari and they're evil. But let me know in the comments below what you think. Am I right about this detachment? Am I wrong about this detachment? What about the Elder that Katie was talking about? Let us know what you think about all of this stuff down below. Because whilst you're down there, you can hit the like, you can hit the subscribe button because it helps us out massively. And you can hit the notification button to on-tick that because we're going to be doing all of these every day for the rest of Grotmas. And then you won't miss any other battle reports that we do in the future. And speaking of battle reports, I will be using this attachment very soon, coming to on demand. But until that time comes, we'll see you later.
Enjoying today's video? Here's a quick look at what we've released this week for our on-demand members. These videos join a huge library of exclusive content that grows every week for our on-demand community. If you want instant access to all of these videos and more, head over to table.tactics.tv or download our app and sign up today. And currently, we have an introductory offer for new customers, so there's never been a better time to join on demand.